Welcome back. I'm Dr. Cheek and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. And today we're going to talk a little bit about our automatic thoughts. Now, do you ever find yourself sometimes thinking about something that you weren't even focused on or actively thinking about? If so, then you've experienced what we sometimes call automatic thoughts. And the thoughts themselves are considered automatic because those are thoughts that tends to come to mind without any type of prompting or with any type of active focus on those thoughts. So what makes them automatic is that they have the potential to be negative, positive, or even neutral thoughts. Automatic thoughts themselves are not always automatic negative thoughts. We can sit and have those thoughts and those things that come to mind, and until we notice it or focus on it, we don't know that we're having it. Which is also what makes them automatic thoughts, is that they sometimes happen or tend to happen without our awareness. And that's because our mind is actually built to think, and that's what it's going to do 99.9% of the time, even while you're sleeping. So today what we're going to focus on, or what we're going to talk about learning how to challenge, are those automatic negative thoughts. And the reason why we focus on automatic negative thoughts is because those are the thoughts that tend to come to mind that evoke some type of negative emotion in us. So that emotion can be sadness, that emotion can be worry, that emotion can be fear, anger, frustration, shame, or embarrassment. Those are those negative emotions that we can sometimes feel that may automatically happen for us when an automatic negative thought happens. And those automatic negative thoughts can affect how we behave. Sometimes we can tend to behave impulsively or in opposition to what we're truly feeling in those moments or wanting to display in those moments because of the automatic negative thoughts and the emotions that those thoughts invoke in us. So, how do we learn to challenge those negative thoughts? How do we learn to challenge those automatic negative thoughts? First things first is to bring those thoughts into awareness, because most of the time these thoughts happen without us being aware that they happen or even triggered an emotion in us. So let's say, for instance, you are entering work and you're entering into your office space and you see that favorite coworker of yours that you talk to on a daily basis. You all have a very good relationship. But today when you walk in, you notice that she never looks up, she never speaks, she doesn't even acknowledge your presence. What's your first thoughts? Most of us may have automatic thoughts such as, maybe she's upset with us. Maybe I've done something wrong. Maybe another coworker told her something about us that makes her not like us anymore. And if those are the thoughts you're having, what are the emotions attached to those thoughts? It may be anger, it may be frustration, it may be sadness, it may be disappointment, it may be disgust, it may be a lot of emotions that are attached to thoughts that someone's upset with you, or that someone doesn't want to have anything else to do with you anymore, that someone has caused a rupture in your relationship that you have with someone. If those are the thoughts that you're having, those emotions are going to follow suit with those thoughts. Now that you're having those thoughts and you're having those emotions, how do you behave? How do you act? Do you get angry with this coworker? Do you take your frustrations out on other coworkers? Do you decide that she's not going to talk to me, I'm not going to talk to her either? Do you ignore her for the rest of the day? Do you get mad and take that anger out on your spouse or your children or someone else in your environment? How do those thoughts and emotions cause you to act or behave? Now, let's roll that situation back. Let's roll that situation back and let's say we have that same situation and you, instead of having those initial thoughts, you have thoughts such as, my coworker has been having a hard time with her husband. Maybe they're going through something. Maybe she just got bad news, or maybe she just learned something about her children that she needs to take care of. Or maybe because she's been talking about one of her parents being sick, maybe something happened. If those are the thoughts you have instead of those initial ones, what are your emotions now? Your emotions now may be concern. Your emotions now may be a little bit worried. Your emotions now may be a little bit inquisitive or wanting to check in or some level of compassion for your coworker. So how do these thoughts and these emotions cause you to respond or act? You may then ask your coworker, are you okay? Did something happen? I know you seem a little off today. What's going on? Are you good? So you see how your behavior and your emotions change, sometimes based off of what you're thinking. But sometimes we're not able to fully recall those thoughts. We're not even aware that those thoughts are happening. What we may notice first is a shift in our emotions. You may notice that when you walked in the office that day, you were excited about starting work. You were excited about telling this particular coworker maybe something that happened the day before, the night when you all left. And when you walked in, now that excitement has turned into a different negative emotion. So when you notice that emotion, it may be helpful to say, what changed? What shifted? What am I thinking about what just happened that is affecting my emotions? That's the first step, to start to become aware of when we're having those negative emotions and what shifted in our environment that may have caused that change in my emotions to the negative. The second thing is to start to challenge those thoughts. And what it looks like to challenge them is to start to think about, what provable truth do I have about this situation? And I'm not talking about your truth. I'm talking about the actual provable facts of a situation. So what actual facts, provable facts, do you have that kind of supports these thoughts that you're having? Or what facts or provable evidence do you have that kind of refutes or goes against that thought you're having? What is that evidence that you have? So let's say a fact could be, your coworker is struggling in a relationship at home, or she's dealing with things with her family. Or a fact could be things about the actual situation. All of these are things that that could influence your thoughts about that situation. Now, what are some things that kind of refute it? My coworker has told me in the past when she's upset with me. So maybe if she was upset, she'd tell me, because previous behavior says she's done that. Or this is something I do out of habit. I habitually have this negative explanatory thought process when something happens that I can't explain. So I may have a habit of saying that someone is upset with me, or that someone doesn't like me, or I've done something negative or wrong to someone whenever I feel like someone is behaving a way towards me. So these thoughts are based out of habit. I do have a habit of always assuming that I've wronged someone in some way, or that someone is upset with me when they don't speak, or when they don't notice me walk into a room. If it's out of habit, start to challenge that habit and start to look for evidence that goes against that being a true explanation for what's happening in your environment. And once you challenge that thought, last part of this is, how do I reframe what I'm thinking to not only take into account what I know about this coworker or this friend, but also the fact that there are some things that I don't know. Your alternative, or your reframe of your initial thoughts to help manage and challenge those automatic negative thoughts could be, maybe my coworker is having a rough morning, or maybe she is upset with me, but I don't really know, so let me ask and find out. If this is your new thought or your reframed thought about that situation, you may have no emotions towards that thought. And that may cause you to simply just ask, are you upset with me? Did something happen? Or what's wrong? And you may get a response from your coworker such as, girl, I am sitting here trying to figure out, how do I respond to this email so I don't lose my job? I'm sorry, I didn't even see you walk in. Now, we've all had those emails where we had to take a step away from the desk or take a couple of breathers before we responded to it. So in that moment, instead of you allowing that automatic negative thought to not only dictate how you're feeling in that moment, and also affect how you behave, not only maybe towards his coworkers, but other people around you, now you've challenged this thought and you simply addressed the fact that there are some things that I know and there are some things that I don't know. So how do I address the situation so that I can deal with whatever negative emotions I may be feeling, and also answer some questions for myself so I don't have to make an assumption? And that helps. It helps us to learn how to challenge those anxious thoughts, because that's normally the root of our anxiety, is those automatic negative thoughts, because most of the time they're not telling us the best possible outcome. Most of the time, those automatic negative thoughts are highlighting the worst possible outcome. And when we're highlighting those worst possible outcomes, the emotions are going to match and the behaviors will follow. So what I hope you learn from today's video is this. You have automatic thoughts that are happening all the time, especially if you're not actively focused on anything else. Those thoughts themselves can be neutral, they can be positive, or they can be negative. The thoughts that we sometimes need to challenge are those automatic negative thoughts, because those automatic negative thoughts tend to cause a shift in our emotions in a not so great way. And when it causes that shift in our emotions, we then behave based off of maybe an assumption or based solely off that emotion, and not challenge that emotion or those assumptions in a way that helps us better examine what's actually happening in our external environment. Take the time to take stock in what's happening around you and that effect on not only your emotions, but your behaviors. As always, I hope you've learned something from today's video. Take the time to jot down any thoughts, questions, or comments you have below. I thank you for taking the time to listen, and I'll be seeing you again very soon. Thank you.